All right, this one I found really interesting within mental health. And this had become somewhat viral. Someone was talking about their depression voice. And, oh my gosh, pop-up ads, please go away. Their depression voice. And they had asked people to share kind of what their depression voice is. Oh, see, Bridget's got them. Yeah, the couch auction's happening at patreon.com/GoTellItToTheWall. She's on it. That's why I love you, Bridget. Anyway, depression voice. And you're like, what do you mean depression voice? And I found this really struck me personally. The couch is available at patreon.com/GoTellItToTheWall. Anyone on the live feed, our on-air producers giving it to you right there. Your depression voice. This is the voice that you hear inside your head when you suffer from a mental illness. Not everyone that suffers from mental illness hears a voice like this, but it really struck a personal chord with me. And this is what your head is telling you. And for me personally, this is a big one, because my head is constantly telling me things. I said at the top of the show, I've had a rough couple of weeks, and it's been a lot of my head telling me, you're not good enough. You can't do this. You just stop. Nobody's going to care if you're gone. That's always been a big one for me. Nobody's going to care if you're gone. You know, obviously then when you get out of that, and most people, when they get out of that, they realize, you know, my daughter would miss me, my wife would miss me, my parents would miss me, my friends would miss me. The Wall fans, they probably wouldn't miss me. Bridget would miss me. They're like, oh man, now how am I going to get the common sense? And I want to share this one with you. This was shared, and I don't even want to give her name. This was tweeted, and struck too personally to me. And this, I quote from her tweet, I quote, eat something. You shouldn't have eaten that, fatty. No one is interested in your opinion. You aren't expressing yourself enough. You shouldn't have shared that. You aren't writing as much as you should be. You aren't doing enough. It doesn't matter what you do. Hashtag depression voice. End quote. Really hit me. And I bring this up for anyone out there that deals with this. Anyone out there that deals with this. The brain is a fantastic thing, but sometimes it can also sabotage you. When you deal with a mental health problem, when you deal with mental illness, it can work very much against you. And that's what happens to a lot of people. That happens to me personally. And I know people that I know people that I know as friends, personally, family, that have dealt with mental illness. This tends to be a common theme. And I think a really important way to combat that is, yes, you can tell yourself, like, I am good enough. I mean, this tweet almost had me tearing up when I looked at it earlier. It's like, that's literally what happens to me on a daily basis. I sit in the studio sometimes and I say, nobody gives a shit what you say. People just want you to sell them a fucking couch. But then I also sit in the studio some days and I say, great. But it's that constant cycle of it. I struggle with this daily. And if you're out there and you struggle with it daily, just know that you're not alone. And one of the best things you can do, other than trying to shut out that voice just on your own, and you can't, it's really, you're never going to be able to completely shut it off on your own, is to have friends and family that support you. My wife knows this about me. My wife knows this about me. And sometimes she knows that I'm going through one of these episodes, these situations, and she'll literally say to me, I don't care what your head is saying to you, you're doing a great job. You're a great father. You're a great husband. You're a great broadcaster, whatever it might be. And I think that is an important thing to keep in mind. Doesn't have to be a spouse. It can just be a friend. Friends are so incredibly important. In fact, that's going to be a Mental Health Monday topic coming up at the very beginning of it. Very beginning of it. I'm actually going to skip this mental health topic because I wanted to get into mental health, mental illness, and existential crises. Existential crises, that's right. This is something else that came up recently, and talking about mental illness and how people with mental illness tend to go into an existential crisis, tend to have that on a regular basis. Regular basis, that's not the right word, but tend to have that and somewhat normally, especially when you're going through a difficult time. I had this actually as in my late teens, early 20s. I really went through this. I was having a lot of problems with death and kind of what is the point of it all? What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? And I still struggle with this. I still do. And it's especially difficult for teenagers. Teenagers who are kind of going through a transition. You're transitioning from childhood to adulthood. And you tend to go through these an existential period where you don't know what to do. You wonder what is the meaning of life. You always hear jokes about midlife crisis and stuff. You don't hear enough about quarter life crisis. You know? There needs to be more focus on the quarter life crisis. People that are going through that, what am I here for? What am I doing? Why am I here? And people with mental illness just go through that on an exponential level. Everyone goes through it. People with mental illness sometimes go through it on a daily basis. I do. That rough 2 weeks I've had, that's a huge part of it. What am I doing here? Why am I here? But the bottom line is everyone has a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. Whether it could be a big purpose, it could be a small purpose. Maybe my purpose is nothing other than talking to a wall, getting trolled by people who want to buy a couch, and raising an amazing toddler. That's actually good enough for me. There are days where it doesn't seem good enough, but it's actually good enough for me. And even if that's your only purpose, that's still a purpose. You have a purpose. Everyone in this world has a purpose. And realizing that will help you. And again, going back to the friends. The friends help you realize that you have a purpose. Your family helps you realize that you have a purpose. My daughter, Jesus, on a daily basis, helps me realize that I have a purpose. And for me personally, this really hit home because I've talked to doctors. I've talked to so many people about this. Mental illness tends to manifest when you are a teenager. Really does. And for me, that's when it became debilitating, was in my late teens and early 20s. Debilitating. However, before that, it could be debilitating at times. And in fact, I'll never forget being 4 years old in Miami and standing outside, and I would play with kids. I had friends. I loved playing with kids and running around and stuff, but every once, it would hit me on an almost daily basis. And I would think, why am I here? As a 4-year-old. This is no exaggeration whatsoever. As a 4-year-old, and I look up at the sky and I say to myself, why am I here? Hey, Jack. Thanks for joining. How's your night going? My night's going good, except I don't have a couch to sell everyone. Look up at the sky and say, why am I here? Why do I get to have this free will? That's as a 4-year-old. When people are like, are you sure you have mental illness? I'm like, yeah, buddy. I got mental illness. I have debilitating obsessive compulsive disorder and debilitating obsessive anxiety disorder. Are they debilitating on a daily basis? No. But like I said, it's been a rough couple of weeks, man. It has been a rough couple of weeks. But that's living with mental illness. You have good days and you have bad days. And all you can do is just continue to fight against it. And I talk about it on Go Tell It to the Wall because I want everyone out there to know that you can fight against it. That there's help for you. It doesn't mean you're less of a person because you suffer from a mental illness, because you have a mental health problem. You're not less of a person. Almost 1 in 5 people in this country suffer from a mental illness. So yes, you are the minority, but there's a lot. There's a lot of us out there. And if one teenager hears this, or one teenager sees one of these articles, and is then able to open up and talk about it, then it's been worth everything that anyone has done. Whether it's that article, whether it's this podcast, whether it's some video, whether it's Mental Health Mondays, whatever it is. It's well worth it. And remember, you have a purpose. You do. Simple as that. You have a purpose.